Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll wait a couple of more minutes. Still some people connecting. Okay, let's give it perhaps 30 more seconds. All right. Should we get going? Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are located. I'll be your host today. I'm Florian. I'm the founder of P2S Management Consulting. We're a boutique consultancy specialized in subscription and as a service business models. We've accompanied 36 companies so far on their journey towards subscription and as a service business models. And I'm very happy today to welcome Stephan Liozu. Today, Stephan is a very renowned person in the world of pricing. Stephan has written, what is it, 15 books now. Also the author of the book The Industrial Subscription Economy, as well as the Monetizing Data. So two different books which are very relevant to subscription business models. And today we're going to talk about as a service and subscription business models in manufacturing, and kind of focusing on today's, let's say, special times we're going through at the moment. But welcome, Stephan.
Great. Hey, nice to be with you all. It's a pleasure to collaborate with P2S. I've known these guys for quite a bit of time, and we speak the same language for sure. So I will share my slides and get us started very quickly. So indeed, we right now, all of us are focusing on what's happening in the world, whether it's conflicts or disruptions or tariffs. It's quite a bit of traffic around the topic of tariffs for sure. But we're here today to look at the subscription world has not slowed down. It is still a very, very attractive business model, and specifically in the manufacturing area. This is an area of untapped potential. No doubt, companies just got started a few years ago, and it is indeed an area that they have not fully scaled. So we believe that in this time of uncertainty, there is an opportunity to generate profit. But then obviously the secret sauce is, how are you going to do that very well? That still is the number one question right now. So just a little bit of context. Obviously, we know everything that's happening on the left side. Traditional manufacturing companies, I would say, are completely disrupted right now. They all asking themselves, what is going to happen with these posturing that's happening across the oceans around the world, and the implications are really could be enormous for a global manufacturing company, for example. As you know, I would say that the traditional globalization model that we used to know, whether it's 3.0 or 4.0, that I don't know where we are right now, but it's completely broken. We're going back to regionalization, reshoring manufacturing or nearshoring, and with that come, the implications that you might imagine is going to create both issues and opportunities. So for in the subscription environment, then you would say, well, yeah, I mean, the reshoring, the nearshoring is really good because it's helping us with local production, and it makes your subscription even more effective, efficient, because you don't have to wait for a piece of equipment to go, from China or whatever is produced to your destination. It is available right now, and and it shortened a little bit of the supply chain. We're not there yet. We're just starting with the reshoring and nearshoring. Right now, companies are experiencing quite a bit of uncertainty. And if you look at this index, which I find fascinating, not since the oil shock of the 70s have we seen this level of uncertainty and I would say panic. Because frankly, I am in a world of pricing, so as you know, I'm the chief value officer at Zilliant, and we help companies right now manage their prices dynamically. So the tariffs are really creating uncertainty in, how do I price? How do I make my processes dynamic? But it's going to be the same, whatever business model you're in. So, small and medium business, large companies right now are taking quick actions. And unfortunately, most companies will start immediately with cost cutting. I mean, that's a natural step that they'll take in a very short term, because obviously we know that it brings short-term results. But at the same time, managing the go-to-market in this context is as important as managing your cost or optimizing cost. So if you read all these papers that are coming out right now with all these consulting, companies or these thought leaders, it's not all about cost optimization. This is going to be, the number one priority for at least 6 months in 2025 until companies stabilize their cost base and get, to the full potential of cost cutting. But what's interesting is at the same time, it is not like we are in a deep recession. Um, there's still money flowing, there's still demand. It may be a soft landing. No one knows, frankly, at this stage, what's going to happen. But CEOs and CFOs are looking for profitable growth opportunities. And keyword, profitable. And growing is still very important for Wall Street and other shareholders. So it doesn't take away from, the need to have a balanced approach between cost and growth. But for us, as subscription experts or subscription, I would say, thought leaders, it shows that there is still lots of potential for innovative business models, innovative revenue models. And the subscription world is very well understood and known in the business to consumer world sector, but I think not yet fully appreciated in the manufacturing and industrial sector. And I think we're here, that's why we're here today. What we're saying is, when done very well, subscriptions and usage-based models, whatever you're going to put forward as far as recurring models, are very promising still for the industrial sector. So what we're going to see short term, it's all of this at the left, on the left side. So right now, the capex is being managed very carefully. It's all about protection of the core. Make sure that companies stay cash flow positive. Yet, as I mentioned before, it's not like we are in a panic mode where we are facing a huge recessionary pressure. Now, for sure, in Europe is the last 18 months have been slow, and that maybe is due to the geopolitical landscape there. and the disruption with energy and supply chain, and we could say the reduction of customer confidence. But it's happening in the U.S. now. In the last couple of months, we've seen the beginning of a somewhat of a recession here, a recessionary trend. So, when we talk about subscription, we typically talk about a switch from capex to opex, and it's going to be, I believe, a hybrid model that might work in industrial markets, not a full transition from capex to opex, because at the same time, these companies are watching OpEx. So I think it's going to be a balance between how much CapEx we can absorb and how much OpEx through the cost at the same time as reducing cost or managing cost they can absorb. Um, that's an interesting topic, but at the end of the day, the value of subscription is all about value capture, about pricing power, about finding the opportunities that will bring higher margin than the transactional model. So cost cutting is, part of doing business. It's going to happen, again in, it's cycles that we go through. Right now, we're all going into cost cutting mode for the next 3 to 6 months, but doesn't mean that we have to stop looking at profitable opportunities. So the language of the C-suite now is changing, whether you're talking about cost optimization or profitable growth opportunities. So first of all, there is a huge sense of urgency, right? So we are not talking now things in 2026. We're talking, how can I make an impact in the next 6 to 9 months by introducing innovations and digital opportunities, very quickly, profitable ones. And the keyword is profitable ones. In the context of what I just said, CapEx budgets, OpEx budgets are going to be under scrutiny. So we have to make sure that when we innovate quickly, but we innovate in a way that we can make profit in the very short term. That's the number one point. So, for example, you may have a choice between 2 or 3 type of subscription innovations or recurring revenue innovation, and you will focus on the one that is a balance between profit and short term. So it may be, for example, you start with software as a service because you still have on-premise software licenses. This is an easy transition. It's been done a million times, and it should be, again, based on increased margin. Launching right now in 6 months a full equipment as a service opportunity may be a bit challenging, but product as a service, hardware as a service, tooling as a service should be able to be done in 6 months because it's been done before. It's not truly innovative. The key is, can you do it in a way that it increases margin? And to do this, I think you have to stay close to the core. The core business today is going to be protected by the C-suite, the commercial people. So they do not want to disrupt the core business because this is the bread and butter. This is where they typically will make lots of the profit margin. So how do I manage that core business? How do you make it growth through innovation without spending tons of money on assets? Without building a need for capex that is going to be under, again, severe scrutiny by the shareholders and the finance team. So developing digital innovation around the core business, there's still, again, in the industrial sector, plenty of profitable opportunities. Whether you bundle product and services into a subscription, whether you move to SaaS, whether you start selling connected services, telemetry, you name it. It's not like it's completely new. In the book that I published, I list 100 types of subscriptions that were done in industrial sector. Since then, there's probably more of them, and very successful one. But two things is happening in the industrial world. The scaling is very slow, so the expansion of revenues under subscription is still small compared to the overall revenue of the firms. And number two is the introduction of innovation is also very slow because it's challenging. Within a traditional legacy industrial model, launching subscription innovations is a challenge. Now, don't forget that companies last year invested $2.5 billion, in trillion dollars, sorry, according to IDC, into digital transformation. So there's still plenty of money, being poured into the digital transformation scope. That means there is still money being able to be used for IIoT, cooling as a service, tractor as a service. But just a lot of companies just don't know how to do this within the core. And then point number four is we have assets today. We may have equipments out there that needs to be maintained, serviced, and those are assets that obviously are on the customer books. But can we, leverage our install base and work with our customers to increase the level of servicing, having maintenance contract, maybe sensorizing these assets, to be able to extract data. So don't forget the value of having the install base out there, as well as your internal assets to leverage. So it's all at the end about starting with profitable areas. I mentioned a few, spare parts and connected services, SaaS and product as a service in area where it can be profitable. So the language of the C-suite has changed. And these investments now are going to be really much more selected based on short-term impact and the ability to create profit in the next 6 to 12 months. So, as you know, if you work in some form of subscription, there are different things you could do in the subscription, economy. And then you start here, if you look at the list on the left, it starts from quite simple, let's get started type of revenue models with connected services, with software as a service, still a huge potential in the industrial sector, maybe fully penetrated maybe in more traditional like tech sector and this traditional software space, where I think about 85% of the software now are in the SaaS form. So that's how you get started, and that should be, you should be able to do that in 90 days, frankly. It's everything is available out there in a commercial fashion. So now when we get into product as a service and equipment as a service, that's where it gets a bit more meaty, and that's where you need to start thinking about investing in your SaaS excellence, right? So again, software as a service it's fairly straightforward. Product as a service, now you start getting into the mindset change. You get into how do I convince my manufacturing plants to put sensor in my equipment? Do I have the right infrastructure for connectivity and cybersecurity? And so you start getting into these implications. And as you go down the list, equipment as a service, IoT, and platform as a service, it creates the need for much more go-to-market excellence. So, I've worked with P2S before, and I've myself done quite a bit of work in the industrial subscription economy. And typically, you would see a lot of friction, I would say, around getting the service infrastructure in place to be able to support your subscription, transitioning the sales model to more of a XaaS type of structure, but also introducing customer success, on top of customer support, because it's not the same, tech support and customer success, dealing with partners, managing the financial aspect of subscription, and then dealing with contracts. So you could see in a traditional industrial company or manufacturing setting, it can be quite disruptive when you get into product as a service and equipment as a service. But again, there is plenty of case studies out there. There's plenty of companies that are doing that today, and they might require the help of P2S to do this. But at the end of the day, let's get started, and it doesn't take 5 years to do it, right? There's services that exist, there's platforms that exist. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't start from scratch. Focus on speed and profit, as I mentioned before. Now, a platform as a service might take a couple of years. Let's not kid ourselves. It's quite complex if you want to do a multi-sided platform, or if you want to leverage a platform to have your ecosystem in it transacting. It's not as easy as a product as a service. So here is a slide that really shows the potential. Now you could say, well, this is a traditional hockey stick type of a chart, but what's interesting here, you look at the equipment down at the bottom of the chart and what's being done in as a service today. Air compressor, fans, pumps, all these have been already put on IoT. So it's just a matter of continuing to scale. Now we see a lot of interest in HVAC and cooling as a service right now. It's the topic, especially in the US, where the install base is huge, where there is a need for reducing the cost of energy, reducing the servicing cost, and then more and more companies don't want to bother to own the asset and to maintain that themselves. They'll pretty much transfer that onto other service companies. So it's a very profitable opportunity as long as you do great segmentation, you have the right business model, you focus on innovation, right? And obviously you're going to price on value and all the rest that I have here. So yes, it's a different business model. Yes, it can be a tough transition, but it's been done before. IIoT is a huge space. There's plenty of commercially available platform. You have an ecosystem with lots of players, and P2S gives access to its client to an ecosystem as part of the relationship. So can it be done in 6 months? I am sure it can be done in 6 months, depending on the uniqueness of your equipment and application. But you look at CNC machines, you look at printing machines where they're already moving to pay-per-use type of business models. So it's not new. So if you're in these businesses today, I hope you started already looking at telemetry and health management solutions for your equipment, your large equipment, and the whole value here is in predictive maintenance. So, and by the way, it's very good for sustainability. So it's not for it's the difficulty right now is to find the right pockets of profit. Doing a Me Too type of product as a service or equipment as a service is not going to generate the margin you need to pay for the back office and some of these additional costs. So what we're saying to the CFO today is the best defense is an offense. As you invest in AI, as you invest in digital transformation, make sure that you also invest in as a service opportunities at the same time as you will look at cost cutting and growth. So it's really adding your as a service opportunities into the profit impact for this year. And obviously, it's going to be based on innovation, the data that you collect, and super targeted. I mean, the need for segmentation. I'm sure you guys know that segmentation is a base of digital innovation, but that's a different message for the C-suite. And what's really key right now is that focus on short-term impact and profitability. So that means you have to do it right in the go-to-market.
Thank you, Stefan, for sharing all those very, very interesting insights on kind of what C-levels are, let's say, discussing at the moment related to as a service, and kind of the conversations that you have been listening to amongst the many companies you've interacted with. Perhaps I'm just going to have a short few words about P2S, as you kind of introduced it already. In the end, companies see us as a catalyst, as an accompanier of their as a service journey, let's say, essentially what we do. We have looked into more than 300 different cases of companies already offering as a service to their customers, and learned about the best practices, what works, what doesn't work, and put this into a very, very structured methodology that kind of engineers usually quite like, kind of this step by step approach. But essentially, you can see it as an accompaniment on the as a service transformation journey, going through a lot of the let's say key challenges that you've mentioned, whether it's financing, funding, legal, IT infrastructure, pricing, packaging, sales enablement, sales playbook, procurement department, etc., etc., etc. And so kind of step by step, over a period of usually 9 to 18 months, we set up the complete business up until kind of monetization and scaling of a company's specific as a service solution. So just wanted to share those very, very few words. But I've seen that we have also some questions that got in from the audience,
Right.
which I'd love to ask to you, Stefan.
Yeah.
The first one is, how do you get started? Do you have any recommendations how to get started with X as a service? Kind of, where do you start? What comes first?
Well, so I would say what you do first is looking at some benchmarks in your industry and say, okay, are we doing enough, right? So your company probably has a digital transformation office and they probably have a roadmap, and it would be interesting to look at that roadmap and say, are there innovative recurring business models in it? And chances are there is. So you're not starting from scratch. And then if depends on what you do, you're a product manager, you're a business manager, or you're a pricing manager, it's a matter of you looking at getting started with, SaaS transition or even a simple product as a service. If you already have a good service intensity or service orientation in your business, and some software that can be tied to the product or to the equipment. I think doing a simple, packaging and selling of these, keeping in mind that you might have to do things manually for a while. So the matter here is to do a good business model and to do a good value prop and to justify the case for that transition. But again, chances are you're doing that already somewhere in your company, and there is
Yeah.
either an incubator or a digital transformation team that is working on it. So find out what they're doing and bring new opportunities to them.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, from what we see, kind of, I can not underline enough the importance of having one champion within a company that kind of has the as a service long-term vision for a company. Because I think one of the very, very challenging things with as a service is that you're not going to reap the benefits in 2 3 months time. It's something where kind of you need a mid to long-term vision for your company. So that definitely agree on that one. Another question that was asked was, how do you make the case for X as a service expansion right now? Do you have
Right.
some thoughts on that one?
So I think this is a unique situation where you have at the same time cost optimization and the need for profitable growth. So I would not recommend that you go into the CFO office and show that swallow the fish type of a curve. So I would highly recommend that and that's typically the case. You have an upfront payment, for equipment, and then a subscription model for the rest of the offer. So the hybrid between capex and opex will makes it a little bit more acceptable with the CFOs right now, where again looking at profitability and capex cash flow. Because as if you do a true equipment as a service, there's going to be a short-term impact. And that usually is scary,
Yeah.
scares away CFOs and other finance folks. So having the right balance of, to show that you're not going to impact profit, in the short term too much. And we've seen that being accepted in the market, where there is an upfront payment, not the full equipment maybe, but at least enough to cover the cost of the equipment. And then there is a 5-year subscription to go with not only the rest of the equipment price, but all the rest of the the value of the subscription. So that and I recommend that you do scenarios on or simulations on the profitability and the cash flow impact to the firm, but make sure you go into the CFO office with that ready.
Okay, so having yeah, the CFO, the swallowing the fish, as you
Right.
mentioned, is a very important thing. I think it's like you need to be educated about it, right? Like you
Right.
need to know that it's going to come. You need to know how you're going to handle cash flow, how you're going to handle revenue recognition, which is different from it, and how you're going to handle the funding aspects
Right.
of it. But kind of if you come prepared, it will be less scary, let's say, probably. Perhaps to finish off, I'd be very interested also personally to have your view on what the best examples of applications, industry sectors are kind of that are moving into as a service. You mentioned CNC machines, ventilation systems, kind of
Right.
what is your take on that? What do you see out there?
Well, I think if you look at the buzz now on in the subscription world, because of the installed base, HVAC and cooling, especially in the US, with millions and millions and millions of units are installed, and then just focusing on the commercial building side, it's a huge potential. And you've seen, these OEMs launching subscription models. But then you see also in the consumer world, you could get your air conditioning unit now. You could buy it on a per month subscription base with, change the filters. You could get a subscription to the HVAC filter. So it's penetrating, the HVAC industry, and I see this as a very high potential for the future. Now, the existing type of equipment like fans and blowers, and whether it's in the steel industry, the mining industry, it's quite still quite a good opportunity because of the cost of replacement, the cost of repair. So the margins are very interesting here as long as you do it, without reinventing the wheel and doing great value-based pricing. So the potential is huge, Florian. I think companies are still lack the skills of doing it very well, and they need to be coached on how to do this so that you could do it very quickly with the right go-to-market model. The opportunity is there. It's can you grab it and then get the attention to the C-suite today with speed and profit.
Yeah, yeah, and perhaps one thing that we see here in Europe a lot happening also is kind of the impact of regulations, the push for more and more sustainability from policymakers that are explicitly pushing for product as a service business models, and kind of in the end holding manufacturers or providers accountable for their
Mhm.
actions further down the line. So this is, I think, another, let's say, driving factor for as a service business models. But Stefan, thank you a lot for the conversation today. Was as always very good listening to your insights. I hope, dear audience, you've enjoyed the talk, the conversation. If you're interested, stay tuned for the next webinars that are going to be announced very shortly, and kind of the blogs and the articles that we're publishing, which can all be found on our resources section on the website. So thank you very much, and talk to you next time. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.